Welcome, everybody, to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. This is a special show, breaking news show, can we call it? I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and I'm joined by Dave Robinson and Adam Cousins as we literally just found out that
Andy, you're forgetting a good friend of yours that you're seeing next week.
I can only see two of us. I didn't know who else is here.
Parker's here.
Oh, I didn't know that. No one told me. Parker, how are you, brother?
Why would I not be here for this?
Dude, I thought you might be in mourning. I thought
I'm in shock.
I thought they were.
I'm going through every stage of grief. But finish your intro.
Thank you, my friend. I really do apologize. I didn't know. I can't see you. I didn't know you were.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, Parker is in mourning. Parker is in mourning because CM Punk has just been released from AEW. Everybody.
Fired.
Well, yeah, fired from AEW. I mean, this is literally breaking news. Myself and Adam had just finished recording this week's SmackDown review, and Parker put it in our group chat that CM Punk has been fired from AEW. It's only fair that we go to Parker first. Me and Adam literally just talked about it, and I said I think this would happen. I know Dave's just put in our group chat he thought this was the best thing to happen. Parker, CM Punk no longer in AEW, fired. Tony Khan actually fired CM Punk. Initial thoughts, my friend?
I feel like Big Show after they put the mic in his face after Denise, was asking about Bray, like right after he found out about everything. It's almost like everything's happening in real time. So this is a pretty raw reaction. So I think it's a mistake, and I'm just going to be blunt about it. And I say that because he is All Elite Wrestling's top merch seller by a pretty large margin. Am I acquitting him of any wrongdoing in this entire situation? Absolutely not. But you look at the overall optics of this situation, and Punk, even though a lot of stuff, negative press came alongside it, I know you guys are going to pretty much advocate for the contrast of what I'm saying, but the capital that Punk brought to All Elite Wrestling, I don't think can be equated by anybody currently in that company. And just by that alone, by proxy, it is a loss for All Elite Wrestling. Now, you guys were talking about it before we came on, and you said that there's cameras in Wembley. You guys had mentioned you think he'll be in WWE by next Mania. I mean, things weren't looking good, I'll tell you that much, throughout most of this week, but this is definitely the last thing I expected to see. And here we are, emergency pod, so let's get into it.
Yeah, our first ever emergency pod, I think, hitting the turnbuckle. It's such an emergency that Dave is actually on a stag do. He's away with the boys celebrating some poor guy that's about to get married. Dave, nice to see you wearing some merch, bro. Surprised you got
Second time Punk's gotten fired on a wedding day.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm surprised you've got any money to go away this weekend, brother. But what do you make of CM Punk not being released, not being suspended, fired from AEW?
So I think it's disappointing for wrestling. It's disappointing for wrestling fans, for Punk, for AEW. There's no doubt about that, and I do agree with the points that Parker made about the eyes that Punk brings to the product, the money that he brings by not only as a draw but by the merchandise as well. But my initial reaction when I read it was that if after a week-long investigation the outcome is that CM Punk is fired, then he must have instigated or been to blame much more than Jungle Boy for the final thing that happened. Obviously, there's other reports coming out about, an altercation with Tony Khan. There's been bits about Miro. There's been bits about somebody else was punching the wall backstage. I think there's Brody King. I don't know if that was on behalf of Punk or again, I'm not sure what that is. But I just think it's got to the point where they can't continue to be dealing with these issues. I think it's much more detrimental than the positive that Punk has been bringing of late. So I'm disappointed. I am in shock. I didn't think this would happen. But now that it has, I think AEW perhaps has to go back to what they were doing so well. And if that means that it stunts their growth short to medium term, then so be it. You know, to achieve what they've achieved in 4 to 5 years is amazing. But if they need to go back to the homegrown stars and start building up people like Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks and, you know, Eddie Kingston and others, then I'd much rather that and then have a more harmonious workplace and a good product that's not having to be chopped and changed every time something like this happens.
Here's a few things as well. What a night to have a pay-per-view in Chicago, by the way, tomorrow now. Oh my God, could you imagine that crowd? Adam,
Collision.
is this Collision as well? Yeah, you've got Collision tonight in a few hours. Collision is literally being broadcast in a few hours. I usually watch it in the morning. I'm going to stop and watch it live. Adam, is this a case of the mob winning? Kenny from Inside the Ropes has just tweeted that out, saying the mob have won. AEW have handled this pretty badly. What I mean by that, is that a case of the other superstars, the wrestlers, saying, you know, the CJ Perrys of this world, the Miros, the, you know, whoever, Kenny Omega, the Elite, yada, yada, yada. Is this a case of them going to Tony Khan going, he goes, or we're all gone? I think that's where they've got to now. I personally think that's what's happened. Look, am I CM Punk's biggest fan? No, but I'm not also, I don't hate the guy. I think he's good for wrestling when he's on, when his wrestling mind is there. But to be fired, and there was 2 people involved in that incident. We all know why it started because of the comment made during the match about the glass, and we've gone into that to nauseam. We all know what happened, but it's got to be so significant for Tony Khan for nearly a week later. We were pretty much a week removed from All In at Wembley Stadium. For him now to come out a week later, have a full week's investigation, and come out and fire CM Punk. And there might be other ramifications, but no one else has been actually fired from the company.
I gotta just to throw this in there real quick. Was it really the significance of this not isolated incident, of this specific incident?
No, yeah, I don't think it is.
Or is it the fact that there was plenty of paperwork drawn up behind the scenes after Brawl Out, and the understanding was this can't happen again?
Yeah.
And I think Jack and Matt, Nick, everybody knew they were poking the bear, and there's just so much wrong on both sides. And the tragedy in all of this is how much money they could have made off of this with Punk and FTR and the Bucks and everybody, and just really what could have been. It's just there's just so much money being left on the table. But I don't think it needs to be lost in all of this that I don't think it was the fact that this incident was just that bad. I think it was the fact that an incident like this just couldn't happen again, especially this soon after Brawl Out. So
that's kind of what I meant with like the other wrestlers, superstars, call them whatever you want. The other employees, let's call them the employees of AEW, have basically gone to Tony Khan and said, this has happened once, and let's not beat around the bush. There was a lot of pissed off people that he come back to the company. A lot. They couldn't even be in the same building. They couldn't be, you know, we heard things of Punk at one end of the building and, you know, everyone else at the other end of the building. It was very, very bad for business. It is a case of it can't happen again, Adam, right? And it has happened. Do you think Tony Khan has made the right decision purely based on the company? And I'm not talking about booking. I'm not talking about matches going forward. Purely based on AEW. Has Tony Khan 100% made the right decision here?
Fucking throw that question to me. You know, I'm one of Punk's biggest fans as well.
I know,
I'll put a positive spin on it.
Okay.
Here comes Edge. That's
Good,
the replacement. They've got a ready-made guy right there that can bring your merch in. All right, he's not as controversial. Well, he can be as controversial as Punk. And I'm a big Edge fan, so I was kind of segued. But did he make the right call? I suppose in his mind he did. Parker made a valid point. This is probably not just because of what happened at Wembley.
Yeah, it's not isolated.
What I would say was, of all times to do it, and their biggest stage of them all for their WrestleMania, as we said on the pod, the SmackDown review, if you do this on their WrestleMania, you couldn't just wait. I'm not saying just fight at Dynamite, but you couldn't just, you know, bring it up when you're back in the States. It happened there. We've already mentioned there's cameras around Wembley. We don't know, and this is all because you heard so much crap about other stories and other things that were kicking off after this all happened. if there's any truth in the fact that he went for Tony Khan, because if you did
I mean, if that happened,
I
then
mean, you're gone anyway, aren't you?
You're gone.
I think Dave's got a great point as well. Time to strip it back.
Go back to what got you.
Was so good about AEW.
Why we all loved it at the start.
Yeah. Did he make the right call? I'm going to have to say yes. I think he did, and I think it's probably because there has been some backstage stuff from probably the elite. Probably have said a few things like Parker said, we're going to go, or it's not necessarily he goes, or it's a case of look, this was once and he's done it again, and there was probably some contractual stuff drawn up after Brawl Out that said if you didn't, and then it had Brawl In, it's kind of come together. So yeah.
Dave, is this a case of maybe as well CM Punk not learning any lessons? Don't get me wrong, we all heard the comment during the match about the glass. We all heard it, okay? Everyone, it went worldwide. It was, in front of 80,000 people as well. Is this a case of Punk not learning any lessons? And it's not easy to bite your tongue in these situations, I get it. But would it not been easier, like Adam just made the point, would it not have been easier for him to go to Tony Khan, not immediately at Wembley when you're hot-headed and stuff? We've all done it, Jesus Christ. We've all been in moments where we've been reactive straight away. Would it not have been easier to wait to a TV taping or on the Monday or on a flight home or somewhere and gone, Tony, I need to chat with you. I need to speak about this situation and be the bigger man and not act it violently. Because let's be honest, if me, you, Parker, Adam, if any of us done that in our workplace, it wouldn't have taken a week-long investigation. You get sacked on the spot. You're gone. You're fired. So is it a case, Dave, of Punk not really, Phil Brooks hasn't exactly helped himself here by reacting backstage with so many eyes on it. You think of the people that were in Gorilla back then, like me and Adam said the other day. You think of the people that were in Gorilla, that have witnessed this, and he's probably dug his own grave. And I don't mean that horribly, but he's probably dug his own grave, because what he should have done is not reacted to the stupid comment that was made on TV, because it was stupid and it was aimed. And like Parker said, and like Adam's mentioned, they wanted to push his buttons. This isn't something that you do off the cuff. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out in God knows how long. That was planned, because they knew he was in Gorilla. They knew they would push his buttons. They knew he would react. My question, Dave, is should CM Punk, in hindsight, is great, just bit his tongue and pull Tony Khan for a chat on the Monday or Tuesday and gone about it the right way, because he would still have his job right now.
It's not what he does, though, is it? That's not his style. I mean, the first promo that he did when he came back was the Counterfeit Bucks one. Straight away, pouring fuel on the fire that what had happened previously and what they were trying to move on from. Then a few weeks ago, he's come out with comments about Hangman, which allegedly sent a text and apologized.
But Dave, hold on. Like I said, I'm going to play devil's advocate during this entire thing, and I am biased, and I own up to it completely. But are we going to sit here and act like Punk was the only person poking the bear? I mean, seriously, let's sit here and think about what happened on TV while he was not present. They were in Chicago biting each other on television. Colt Cabana was getting booked for Dynamites. They were pandering to the crowd. They were being cheeky on social media about it. I mean, we can sit here and talk about business practice, and everybody can sit here and be happy that Punk got voted off the ship. But at the end of the day, what is Tony Khan doing to hold the people responsible that were also instigating a lot of these events? Like, really think about it. What events were transpiring on television before Hangman threw that first jab at Punk and went off the fucking script? Absolutely nothing was happening. Punk was having regular promos and regular programs until that entire thing went down. And of course, there was that huge dissension with the Bucks, that huge dissension with the Elite. And then it's just one thing after another. So my question really is Jungle Boy Jack Perry really worth all of this? And on top of that, what type of punishment is he getting and all? It's so easy to sit here and nail Punk to the cross, but at the end of the day, I just don't think people are really taking into account that, like you said, that is who Punk is. And on top of that, I don't see the justice in any of this on the other side of it, because to sit here and act like Punk is just this guy that's walking and instigating all of this stuff and he is the catalyst for all of it is just, I don't know. It seems misinformed to me.
I don't think he's the catalyst for all of it. I think what he's probably the victim of as well is those guys that you talk about, Jungle Boy, the Elite, Colt Cabana. These are all friends, long-term friends on the Indies, and they formed the company. So Punk was always the outsider, so he always had a difficult job. And when he kind of went not to war with them, But they were on opposing sides of the arena at times. It was always going to be difficult to get in the good graces, and there's certainly you can feel a degree of sympathy for Punk, but at the same time, if he is the person that's time and time again involved with these issues, then it's going to catch up with him sooner or later. And
you can't. Yeah, you're right. The frequency of all these events and the fact that his name's correlated with all of them, you're right. It's not a good look.
Yeah, I'd say I feel really sad. I would say Punk's return to wrestling is probably my favorite wrestling return of all time.
Same.
And I wish it hadn't have ended this way. I was intrigued by what they were doing with the titles and whether that was going to end up with a match with MJF or what direction they were going. And I think the wrestling fans, AEW, have all been robbed of that, which is a massive, massive shame. But again, as you just said, mate, it's just the frequency, the amount of times that his name.
Dave, I just don't see this as a good thing for AEW in any capacity. And I say that because you've had guys like Chris Jericho have been there since day one. You brought in guys like Christian, and Andy and Adam have mentioned that they're going to do things that kind of got them to the dance. And I don't think MJF is where he is if he doesn't have a few the caliber of like he did with CM Punk. I mean, that absolutely elevates a guy like MJF. And everything that Punk did in AEW helped everybody around him for the most part. And it's just like, in order to build pedigree for your company, you are going to need guys like that. And I mean, geez, man, this is just a bad thing for AEW in general. Like, complete Punk bias aside, I mean, monetarily, we all know this is going to affect Tony Khan's pockets. That's not even a debate. And on top of that, I mean, you just got the deal for Collision, and if you think that happens without Punk, I think it's
huge. The Punk, I think that's how it was pitched. CM Punk was going to be the star of the show, and that's probably why the network were so keen to get it up and running. I think the other kind of interesting thing to mention is that people have called Tony Khan quite weak with how he dealt with disciplinary matters in the past. So you kind of have to, if we criticize him for being weak at times, he's kind of made a strong decision here. Might not agree with it. Certain people might not agree with it, but it is a kind of a decision that a leader needs to make, I suppose, if you think it's for the better of his company.
Do you boys think, Ads, I'll come to you with it first. Do you think that we now get the details of the full true story? I mean, I say true, it's going to be hearsay, but you can't fire with someone and then not explain why. You can put out a statement saying he's been released, blah, 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 blah. Surely you've got to explain, because like Parker said, well, CJ, nothing, what's happened to him? What punishment has he got? Punk's probably only been fired because this isn't like you guys have mentioned, this isn't an isolated incident. This has happened before. They probably didn't want to happen again. But surely now that they've got to tell us what happened. I mean, eventually, like the backstory of the Montreal screw job, the truth come out eventually. Shawn Michaels said till he was blue in the face that he didn't know anything about it. He knew. Surely Tony Khan has to come out and they've released his statement, but you can't just fire CM Punk and then not come out and say the actual truth behind what happened backstage at Wembley. Like you say, they've got footage of it. Is this just it? Is this all we hear from Tony Khan? Do you think Ads moving forward and then they carry on? Not like nothing's happened tonight on Collision. Obviously, then we've got the pay-per-view tomorrow night. But is it just business as usual?
I think that's exactly what they're going to do. I mean, I really don't think they're going to delve too much into this on television, nor should they. And I really pity the performers going into the United Center tomorrow night. I really do, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still probably going to be a really fun show, but man, they're going to get some backlash from this. And everybody knows Punk's got a pretty hardcore fan base, and we're gonna have that conversation probably some point either down the line or on this pod. He went backstage at WWE and Raw not too long ago, was making amends with people, and was asked to leave the building. And as you guys can imagine, the timeline's on fire with the CM Punk to WWE agenda. So if people thought that this CM Punk dialogue was going anywhere, it looks like it's just getting started.
And I just say I said it before this had even happened. What did I say about half hour ago? Ads about CM Punk coming to WWE.
Until
Said it's gonna.
Mania.
I said he'll be there by WrestleMania, and this is before we'd even knew.
Survivor Series is in Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Adam, how do AEW move forward now?
Well, I just want to read about this. It says the termination followed a week-long internal investigation of an incident incurred backstage at All In. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee later convened with an outside legal counsel, Paul Heyman, before making a unanimous recommendation to Mr. Khan that CM Punk be terminated. So he didn't actually terminate him; the
legal counsel did.
Yeah, which there you go.
Later on in the statement, he said that Tony Khan says it's his decision. I think.
Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah, I'll read it. I've got it right in front of me. It says,
yeah, maybe I am making a decision based on the best interest of the many amazing people that work in AEW. What was your question, Andy? Sorry, I was.
How do AEW move forward from this?
They just carry. Listen, they've got
business
a
as usual.
They've got a roster there that's. We were talking about their roster.
There was AEW before Punk. There'll be AEW after it.
And like I said, there is a certain free agent coming up in about 2 weeks that they can bring in and
push to the moon.
And and he will get some. He'll pop a rating. He'll get some merch. Maybe not as much. He probably might not sell as much merch as Punk does, but he can easily.
Edge is not bigger than CM Punk.
It might keep Dax and Cash on side as well because they're not going to be very happy.
Do you know what? I think that's like I said at the start, lads. I genuinely think that half this run, and this isn't me bashing Punk. I genuinely think this is what happened. FTR, the Elite, Kenny, Hangman Page, they've all basically said, if he stays after this, fuck you, we're gone. They're not going to put.
You think FTR was a part of that?
Guarantee you. I can guarantee you. Purely on the aspect of this can't happen again. I know FTR are good buddies with CM Punk, but purely on the aspect that this had happened once and loads of the roster probably had the hump that Punk come back. We all know that. But I reckon all these guys now have said, you can't turn a blind-ish eye to this. You can't just discipline him and put him on the sidelines for 2 to 3 months and then it's a big welcome back on a Collision or a pay-per-view. You had to be seen to do something. We don't know what happened backstage. I said a minute ago that Tony Khan should really tell us. Maybe we will never know. But there was only ever going to be one fall guy for this, because if he, say for argument's sake, they kept him, just for argument's sake, and they were all at the next show, the next big pay-per-view, all out, say Punk was there, my God, they could have had merry hell on their hands. God knows what could have gone. Could you imagine the dirt sheets and the press and everyone? You said at the start, Adam, about Tony Khan being weak. Could you imagine what had happened if all them guys had stayed in the same building together? This has happened now. It could have easily happened in a month's time, 2 months' time. Something would have happened again where these guys backstage, it's like any employment, Dave at your job, Adam at your job. If someone keeps causing trouble, and I'm not saying that this isn't all CM Punk. This takes more than two to tango. But if, like Parker said at the start, this is a combination of what's happened in the past, catching up with him. Whether that's right or wrong, that's not for us to decide. But any walk of life, if you get physical in real life, for the YouTube listeners, I'm doing air quotes here because this isn't a shoot. This isn't wrestling. This isn't scripted. This isn't a work. CM Punk isn't going to turn up at the pay-per-view tomorrow night in Chicago.
Well, he might.
No, he might. Yeah, he can try and get in the building. What I'm trying to say is, Tony Khan, in my opinion, had no other choice, because he probably had half his roster saying, look, you either fire this guy or we've got some serious issues. Potentially, they could be like, we're down in tools. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the contract. We're down in tools. Sorry, Dave, go on, mate.
It just seemed like it was never going to end, that these kind of issues were going to go away.
Yeah, I just generally think, and being honest, deep down, Tony Khan probably didn't want to fire him. He probably didn't want to fire him. I can guarantee you probably he didn't want to fire him. He would have loved to have tried and resolve this. But when you've got, like Kenny from Inside the Ropes tweeted out, the mob kind of after Punk. And look, I'm not here just to bash CM Punk. It takes more than two to tango. But when you've got the Elite, and like I say, you've got Hangman Page and you've got Kenny, and you've probably got and even his buddies, like I say, I mentioned FTR, and his probably buddies have gone, man, that can't, what happened on Sunday night can't happen. We can't risk, AEW cannot risk that happening again. Under no circumstances can that happen again, because then that would be 3 times, say for argument's sake, that happened again at another pay-per-view. Tony Khan can't have that. No company
he
in
did
their
have a
right
bit of
mind.
a to do on Collision with Dave. Who was it? Who was the other guy recently? He had a bit of a thing with Collision, told him to leave.
Christopher Daniels.
Yeah, well, no, there was 2, there wasn't there. That was the head of talent. There was another one, wasn't there?
Matt.
No, there was another name. It wasn't, again, not necessarily high up on the card, but there was another name, wasn't there?
That's what I'm saying. These instances.
Go
on.
Ziggler's brother, Ryan
Nemeth. That's the one. He basically had a massive, to do with him, didn't they, on Collision? And
he's always on BTA.
It all rings around the same people, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I genuinely think that's. And is this good for AW in the short term? No, it's not. In the long term, I think they'll be fine. Like you said, Adam, you've got Edge around the corner. That's an argument, Edge and CM Punk.
I think they make a big play for him now. If they haven't done already.
Yeah, they need. Don't get me wrong, you've still got MJF, and
they're not.
But they're not CM Punk.
No.
And I'm talking short term. Obviously, they're in Chicago tonight for Collision. They're in there tomorrow night for All Out. They'll be fine. Is it bad what happened? Yeah, it's really bad. Did he really have any other choice? When you strip it back, as an employee, did he really have any other choice?
He was lucky to stay the first time.
Thank you. That's the only point I'm making. He was fucking lucky to get his job back the first time.
And the only reason the other 3 were there is because they're EVPs.
Yeah, true. And they own a bigger stake in it. But yeah, boys, it's gonna be an interesting couple of weeks. It's gonna be an interesting night tonight at Collision at All Out. Sorry, Dave, go on, mate.
I was just going to, when he left the WWE, obviously we had the Colt Cabana podcast and we heard Punk's side of the story, whether there's some kind of legal, particularly with the brawl out stuff, whether we can talk about it or not. Be interesting to see where Punk pops up with his side of the story.
If he's allowed to legally.
Yeah, but he's not part of the company now, is he? So I don't know what.
They can still do NDAs though. Because look at when Vince slept around with every woman in every state possible. They
allegedly don't want to get us kicked off.
But I say though that if they kind of come to a mutual agreement on the termination of the contract, the fact that Tony Khan.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, is Punk done with wrestling? No, not a chance. I'm telling you, he'll rock up in WWE by, like Barker said, Chicago.
Survivor Series in Chicago, and he won't have a no compete. I don't think.
He could be on Raw Monday if he wanted to. How fucking good would that be for ratings ads? We were just talking our shit.
Maybe he should hop on a plane and go to Pennsylvania. How far is that from Chicago?
How funny would that be? Just rocks up a Payback tonight. That would be absolutely hilarious. But Parker, I hope you're okay, brother. If it's any consolation, I'll be with you next weekend, mate. I'll buy you a beer.
Oh my God. That's the last thing you need, Parker.
I want it to be known that this is not good. And I want it to be known that this is not going to lead to anything good for AEW. And I say that because I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast already. I feel like Tony's, kind of putting his money on some of the wrong horses. And I just think CM Punk means a lot more to this company than a lot of the people that we've been talking about. And the numbers just don't lie, dude. They just don't. And as somebody who cares about AEW, as somebody who enjoys watching AEW, this is going to affect the product. And I don't.
The product doesn't matter when a wrestler's going around punching other employees in the face backstage. Parker's an employee. You can't go around your workplace putting hands on other people. It doesn't matter if he's fucking CM Punk, Hulk Hogan, Roman Reigns, anyone. It doesn't matter. If Adam walks up to work on Monday and punches his boss in the face, he's getting fired. If Dave does it, if I do it, if you do it, we're all getting fired. You can't say because it's CM Punk, this is going to be to the detriment of AEW, because that's bullshit. You can't put your hands on anyone else that's employed in the company and expect to get away with it again. As good a wrestler as he is, and he's fucking amazing wrestler. He's a great wrestler. You can't walk around a company outside of a scripted television show punching the living shit out of people and expect to get away with it. I'm sorry, you can't. And
I mean, you and I have absolutely no idea what happened backstage.
No, we don't.
So...
We don't. But someone's been fired. You don't fire someone because he could go and sue them for wrongful dismissal. If it's that bad, he'll go, fuck you then. I'll sue you for wrongful dismissal. Well, I'll see you in court, Tony Khan. He's not going to do that. He knows he was lucky to get his job back the first time. Very lucky.
I mean, is
back.
it that he was lucky to get his job back, or they were lucky to get one of their biggest merch sellers back? So I mean,
you can only use the merch thing so
the
far,
whole reason Tony took him back in the first place, Andy, is because of money, dude. Like,
yeah, but you can only use the merch thing so many times, man. They'll make money. They've just sold 80,000 tickets at Wembley Stadium. They're selling 80,000 tickets.
Was on the card,
and they'll sell 80,000 tickets next year at Wembley Stadium. And they'll sell.
I mean, on top of that, I mean, Dave's already agreed with me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you don't, that's fine. But Collision doesn't happen without Punk. It's just like you can't sit here and act like this is a good thing for AEW in any capacity.
It's not a good thing, but you can't physically hurt another employee and expect to get away with it.
How do you know what happened? I don't know what happened. I don't think you know what happened. I don't think anybody knows.
You're not getting it. For every single person, nearly every report we've read saying Punk got physical backstage. Not all of them people can be lying. Not all, God knows how many reports. They can't, there's no smoke without fire. They can't all be making it up. They can't all be wanting to get the one man out of the company. If one
happens all the time. It happens all the time.
If one person was saying it, you'd be like, he's got a vendetta against CM Punk. Someone's got a vendetta against the guy. Look, he's not the only person to blame here. But when, like Adam says at the start of the show, when it's all revolving around one person and there's only ever going to be one loser, and it's going to be CM Punk. Because it could have happened tonight if he was on Collision and they were all in the building. They all could have had another fight. Then what, then the press are going to be all over Tony Khan again saying, well, why didn't you deal with this at Wembley? Why didn't you deal with this the first time? You put him on hiatus and you negotiated for him to come back. That's the point I'm trying to make. This can't keep happening. In any walk of life, this can't keep happening. This is not just wrestling. This is in the corporate world. It could be anywhere. It can't keep happening. So that's why Tony Khan's made the decision he's made, I feel. And, I think AEW will be fine in the long term. In the short term, they'll suffer. Of course they will, because they're in Chicago tonight. They're in Chicago tomorrow. There's going to be CM Punk chance, but wrestling will move on. Wrestling will be fine. It's not going to suffer greatly long term. Short term, yeah, fucking hell. Merchandise is going to suffer. Like Adam said, the Edge could be here in 2 weeks. The fucking merchandise will be flying out the door. You know what I mean? It happens. These things happen. AEW is not going to go under because one man got physical backstage at Wembley Stadium. That's all I'm saying. And he's been the fall guy for it because he got physical backstage. Allegedly got physical. We didn't know. But for every single report that we've heard, you can't go around your workplace putting your hands on people. Just because you're a wrestler, you can't do it.
Do you guys think that, and this is kind of off topic, but do you think Cody leaving WWE had anything to do with Punk going into AEW?
Leaving AEW?
Yeah, Cody going the other way.
Do you also think that just maybe Cody is just a lot more of a politician? And he's just not going to say all the things that Punk says, and instead is just going to defect and quietly leave when he could have been seeing these cracks in the foundation long before Phil even got deeply embedded in the company. I mean, every time people ask Cody why he left, he just says personal reasons, and his personal reasons could be the same very thing that Punk is having issues with as we speak, and it's the fact that the Elite run a real loose fucking ship over there. And I mean, this doesn't hurt CM Punk at the end of the day. I mean, this guy is still friends with people in WWE. He's still friends with, I mean, you saw him at that ceremony. He's dapping up JBL. He's talking, I mean, he's still very connected to the WWE. And it's just a matter of if he wants to go there and if he wants to make that decision. I mean, obviously there's a lot of bad blood there because of all of the medical issues that he faced that, I mean, we could sit here and talk about an hour about that, about how Punk got slighted in that capacity. But I think a lot of the narratives that you're seeing on the internet are just extremely lazy. And I also think that I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going backstage and punching people when we have no evidence of any of it. It's all simply accusations. I think overall, Tony is the CEO of All Elite Wrestling, and the Elite being Matt, Nick, Kenny, Hangman, and all of these guys have got a problem with Phil. Like I said, I think this really came down to a matter as simple as, if something similar to Brawl Out happens again. I mean, we're almost a year to the day that this last situation happened. So, I mean, I think it's just a lot of legality in the situation. But at the end of the day, I think both parties are going to be fine. But I think it's going to hurt AEW a lot more than it's going to hurt Punk. And I simply say that because we have seen what AEW programming is like without CM Punk, and I maybe people have recency bias. I don't know, but they definitely suffered, and so I hope that people like Jungle Boy are ready to step up. I hope people like Ricky Starks are ready for the main event scene. I think they're going to be fine with guys like Jay White. I think this is going to be a big opportunity for some people to rise up the card. MJF is going to get that, I'm the guy treatment now, and he definitely deserves that. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it's definitely a huge kick to the nuts for them. And I'm not going off of my fanboy opinion. I'm going off of a monetary standpoint. And if I had no leg to stand on, he would have never been brought back in the first place. His value alone is the reason he was brought back in the first place. So I'm just very disappointed that they couldn't settle this all like adults and Tony couldn't figure something out, because
That's a good point there. That's what they should have done, Parker, in my opinion. I don't know what you boys think. That's a very good point. When he originally come back, and I think Adam, I think we said this maybe a few weeks ago. Just get them all in a room and be adults and say, look, don't have to all like each other. Like Parker said, if they had nipped this in the bud when he originally come back, so you haven't got people getting changed at one end of an arena and some people at the other end of the arena. If they all just sat in a room and said, look, we get it. You don't all like each other, but please, can we make this work?
But one more thing. My whole thing is like, where's the punishment for these guys that are shooting on live television, dude? Like, I just don't, to just completely leave them out of it and act like those incidents don't matter. Like, I'm not saying Punk handled the situation well at all, but like, did Jungle Boy have to say that shit? Absolutely not. I mean,
ridiculous.
He knew what he was doing. Hangman knew what he was doing. And it's almost like these guys don't really care about the overall growth of the company. And it's just become this weird Punk versus the Elite kind of thing. I don't know, man. It's almost business malpractice, and I feel so firmly about this that I'm almost at peace with it now at this point in the pod, just because
it's been like a therapy pod.
It's just not good for AEW, dude. It's just not.
Pod.
I don't know how to articulate it. It's just not good for AEW. So we'll see how things play out.
Yeah, we shall see how things play out.
If Punk wants a podcast to come on and talk about,
I know one he can come on. It'd be in, like Dave said, it'd be interesting to see how long it is till we hear from him. Do we hear from him? If there's no legal thing that he can't speak, there's no way he's biting his tongue for longer than 24 hours. He'll say something. I don't know what.
And what are the terms of the release? Is this a situation where he's got a non-compete?
There's nothing in the press release, Parker, mate. That literally we didn't get.
It's like a straight, you're fired.
It's like a straight reading the press release. It's a straight. Thank you for your service. You're fired. That's it. That is pretty much the whole press release in a nutshell.
All this bullshit speculation.
Yeah.
That's all.
This is just adding fuel to the fire, man. This doesn't put any fires out.
They're going to boost their ratings for Collision and All Out, though.
I will.
Stupid. All Out was not looking great. It wasn't looking terrible, but wonder what they're going to do with Dennis Rodman now on Collision tonight. It's going to be interesting. Jesus. Well, Dave, we will let you get back to spending more money if you've got any left. Parker, try not to do anything silly before I see you next weekend, brother. I'm going to buy you a beer. I'm going to buy you a beer, give you a hug. Everything's going to be okay in the world.
Phil is going to be on a TV wrestling for some company. I don't know what company it's going to be, but I'm booking. Man, what a mistake. I'm standing firm on this one.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. Well, Adam, Dave, Parker, we're no doubt this is just the beginning of us talking about this kind of situation. There's going to be more developing stories. Twitter's going to be abreast with God knows rumors and speculation over the next 24 hours. It's going to be interesting.
If it helped anybody, it helped WWE. Oh my God!
Literally, it's about to say that if it's helped anyone, it's helped WWE. Let's see what he does for AEW. Let's see what Collision does tonight. Let's see what All Out does tomorrow. It's in Chicago. It's going to be that crowd. Wow. You ain't editing out any of them chants. But Dave, enjoy the rest of your weekend, brother. Enjoy it. Parker, I will see you this time next weekend, my man. Take care. Stay safe. And Adam, enjoy Rev Pro tomorrow, bro. But this has been a very special edition of the Hit in the Turnbuckle podcast. I've been your host, Andy Burrows, with my three amazing co-hosts, Parker Hamlet, Dave Robinson, and Adam Cousins. Till next time, everybody. Stay safe.